All right, we have a weekly candle close right now that's coming up in a couple of hours for Bitcoin. And why is this weekly candle especially important here is because this pattern I've been talking about has been a pattern to be really watching out for. This is a bearish pattern on the Bitcoin charts, which is still the driver of this crypto market. If we actually break down from this pattern here, which looks like, it's looking less likely, we still have about 5 more hours until this weekly candle closes. So let's see if the bulls can actually put in a weekly candle back within this pattern. If it does, then this tells me that this is going to be a bear trap or a short squeeze is going to be coming up, right? Which is very good for the bulls. Does that necessarily mean that we're going to break out of this bearish pattern? Not necessarily, but it is a good sign because that will increase the buying pressure from within this pattern that if we actually end up back in it, right? Now, I usually do the news, but today I'm having some technical difficulties with TradingView. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get right into the charts here. Okay. We're gonna be taking a look into Veracity. We're gonna be taking a look into DIA, which is DIA, as well as ApeX, and see what's happening in some of these markets. What are their current price setups, especially after that dump on Friday? Are things still looking good for the bull market? I am still long on Bitcoin. I am still long on quite a bit of the altcoins here. So my opinions on this market is right now still bullish. But of course, these are just my opinions and not financial advice like the entirety of this video. So you guys have to form your own opinions and strategies. Now, what I'm looking at here is, like I said, Bitcoin very close to that bottom trend line here. It looks like the bears are actually trying to break down from here. But it looks like right now the bulls are actually winning because you guys can see that there has been a huge wick. So the bulls have actually bought this breakdown right back up. If this thing actually ends back up into this pattern here, like I said, that's going to be looking very good for the bulls at the moment. However, if we actually end up like this, I think this is going to be a little tough call if we actually end up like this, right? Because it's not a solid candle close below that bottom trend line there. So if we actually end up like this, I think we still have to pay attention next week, right? You guys let me know what you guys think, right? I don't think that's a solid enough candle close outside of this bottom trend line here. And if this thing still breaks down, the breakdown target will still be just almost 80,000, which could be catastrophic for these altcoins because even if you trade altcoins, not Bitcoin, you want to be rooting for Bitcoin. It is still the driver of this crypto market. If it has more room to pump, then that's going to be very good for your altcoins. I've been mentioning that I still am bullish on this market because of a few bullish arguments. One of the main ones being the Federal Reserve has actually started its Fed rate cut cycle, right? Back in September, and it looks like we're going to get a few more rate cuts, right? At least two. That's this year. Okay, so I'm just referring back to the CME watch tool here, right? We have a what's the likelihood of getting a rate cut in October? 98% almost. December 100%. These probabilities could change, but that's what it looks like right now. We're also going to be taking a look into this Bitcoin trend here, which has been highly correlated with previous bull cycles. And this is basically the search term for Bitcoin in the United States on weekly data points. And this is why this supports my argument as well, because this tells me about retail interest that's coming in, right? And it's still coming in right now very strongly. Basically a sudden increase in retail interest. Okay, so that is another argument. In addition to some technical analysis arguments as well, but I don't think I'm gonna get there today, right? Let me go back to my chart here. All right. So, okay. So, let's go ahead and go to altcoins. Okay, we're going to be taking a look into some altcoins. One of which is going to be Veracity, right? Excuse me for the lag here. So I'm using the web browser for TradingView. So Veracity here. What I'm looking at is a falling wedge pattern that is still intact. Okay, that is still intact and has actually broken out of this pattern back about a couple of weeks ago, back in August. Okay, and the price target here is about 1.5 cents for Veracity, which is still a pretty big move. However, price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less, and a lot of which is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin starts dumping, these altcoin setups, they're not going to matter very much. Now, I have also invalidated quite a few patterns, smaller patterns on this chart, because, well, a lot of it because of what happened on Friday and basically broke down, and just need to rechart the charts here. Okay. Now, I talked about a double bottom from within the bigger falling wedge pattern. One way that double bottom could still be intact if we actually get a weekly candle close above those previous bottoms at about 0.11 cents, okay? Then this double bottom will still be intact, but that looks like a pretty far shot right now, even for Veracity, a smaller altcoin. So if that double bottom does not stay intact, there is still I recharted this falling wedge pattern here, a smaller falling wedge pattern here, and the price targets for the smaller falling wedge pattern. All right, it's lagging a little bit, but basically it's the opening of the pattern, and then we put that on top of an estimated breakout point, which would be here, and that would give us an estimated price target if it breaks out by this point of about 0.27 cents. Now, falling wedges, again, are bullish patterns that have a higher chance of breaking to the upside. Also have to mind the downside risk, of course. So this is basically what I'm seeing for VRA, especially after that dump on Friday. Let's go ahead and go to DIA, see what's happening in this market. Now for DIA here, I talked about on the weekly time frame that there was a falling wedge pattern here. Let me wait for the charts to load. Okay. All right, I'm going to wait for my Wi-Fi to reconnect. Okay, so some technical issues today, but it's fine. Bear with me. All right. So on DIA, just to keep it short here, on the weekly time frame, there was a falling wedge pattern. Okay. There was a falling wedge pattern, and it looks like DIA has actually tried to break down from that pattern. I'm waiting for my chart to load, as you guys can see. And it looks like DIA is trying to break down from the pattern, and you guys will see this chart quite something very similar with quite a bit of these altcoins here, where there was a falling wedge. If you guys actually chart your charts, and then the based on Friday, it actually tried to break down from the pattern, and you want to see a bullish signal would be if you see the price action, actually the weekly candle or whatever candle on the time frame you're looking at. Based on the pattern that you're looking at, ends up back into the pattern. That tells me that it was a a bear trap, and the buying pressure is going to increase from within the pattern. Okay, and see what happens from there. Now, this is basically what I'm seeing for DIA. If this weekly candle close actually ends up back into the pattern, that's going to be looking very good at the moment. And this falling wedge pattern will still be intact because of the wick, right? However, if you get a candle close outside of the pattern here, below the pattern here, like this, I would say that this falling wedge pattern would have been invalidated. Now, the price target, if this falling wedge pattern stays validated, would be about $1. I have moved the measure move down along this upper trend line. Let's go ahead and go to ApeX and see what's happening with ApeX. Now, ApeX has actually broken out of this huge falling wedge pattern on this weekly time frame. Okay, broke out of here, and that was about 2 weeks ago. And the price target for this breakout, if we actually take a measure move here by measuring the opening of the pattern, and then you put it on top of the actual breakout point here. Now, this is the beauty of technical analysis. It basically went to the price target before getting a rejection. So you can see that, you can tell that the other traders in this market are seeing this move. And basically right now is retesting that weekly 50 SMA, the white line here at about 95 cents. Let's go ahead and take a look into a smaller time frame and see what ApeX could be doing. Smaller time frame, I see probably the 2-hour time frame. I think this is a very close falling wedge pattern on this 2-hour time frame. I don't have exactly 3 candles touching on the bottom trend line, but I think it's close enough. Just my opinion. Now, it is running within the falling wedge pattern here. There was already a fake out for the bears, right? And we see the buying pressure basically increasing here, right? Let's take a look into a measure move, okay? Measure move. Let's just say if it breaks out by this point, for example, then ApeX would have a measure move for this breakout if it breaks out to the upside, about a $3.65 price target. Again, price targets are estimates only. A lot of it is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin. Now, this basically wraps up for this shorter update today. And let me see if I can get TradingView back in fully functional mode tomorrow. But if you guys want to continue seeing any more of ApeX, ADIA, VRA, make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe, or any other coins in this market. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis, and I'll see you on the next one.